Good morning, traders. Gates W. Adams here. I am your host, and I'm glad to be back after another little break with Martin Luther King Day last week. So anyway, glad to be here and sharing this Monday morning with all of you. Thanks for hanging out with us today. We've got a phenomenal show for you today. My guest today is somebody that I had an opportunity to talk to almost a year ago for the first time. And honestly, I've been trying to get him on the show for about 6 months. And we're able to make that happen. So I'm super excited about that. And on top of that, I just wanted to share some absolutely exciting news. Apex Trader Funding has just broken over $90 million paid out to traders. That's $90 million in the hands of traders without having to put up their own capital. To me, that's a pretty exciting number. And in fact, on top of that, over 38 million of that was just in the last 90 days. So anyway, before we get into everything today, I really want to take a minute to talk a little bit about why I'm excited to have my guest on today. His name is Sahil. And I think one of the reasons that a lot of people start getting into trading is because they really want to develop a certain lifestyle, a lifestyle that doesn't necessarily meet the norm of the everyday 9 to 5, going to work 5 days a week and, come home at 5 or 6, have dinner, rest, repeat, and get up and do the same thing again the next day. And a lot of people have the goal of living that quote unquote laptop lifestyle. And what I found is that a lot of people, once they get to that point, they're so inundated in their routines that they just don't ever take off. They don't just ever go do it. Well, my guest today is just doing it, and it's been a fantastic opportunity for him, and I'm excited to have him share with you today on today's episode of the Trader Bacon Show.
Welcome to the Trader Bacon Show, where we showcase everyday traders that are getting funded, paid, and bringing home the bacon. Are you ready? Because the Trader Bacon Show starts right now.
Sahil, what's up, my man?
What's going on, Gates? Good to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. As I said in the intro, yes, as you and I both know, I've been trying to get you on the show for like 6 months. So I'm glad we were able to finally make this happen. I just think that the way that you've basically taken trading and your opportunity being a funded trader to basically build a lifestyle that a lot of people dream of, and even a lot of people who are capable of doing so just don't. And I love that about you. And I'm super excited to share a little bit about your background and kind of how you got to where you are and some of the things that you're doing that are helping you be successful enough to live this way. So thanks for hanging out with me today, man. I appreciate it.
No, of course. It's good to be here. I mean, I enjoyed our last conversation a bunch too. And, it's always good to be here.
Awesome. Well, before we get into the meat and potatoes, we've posted on there the link. So if you want to either foray into the world of being a funded trader, or you're looking to just add another account or replace an account, we are giving away 3 evaluations. We will not post we have a little change in scenery today, and my producer is out. So he will take and select the winners, and he will email you by the end of the week. My apologies, I won't be able to announce them at the end of the day, but do take a moment and go ahead and fill those out so that you have a shot at winning one of those. Nothing better than a free evaluation, man. It's free freedom, right? So anyway, that said, take full advantage of that. All right, Sahil. Well, let's talk a little bit about you, man. Let's go a little bit back in the story a little bit. How long have you been trading now?
So been trading. It's about we talked about it last time. It's about like 10 or 11 years. Because I actually, when I was younger, before I was 18 years old, I was like asking my dad to set up an account for me. So with one of the brokerages, so that I could like tell him which trades I wanted to take to that, so I could start getting practice and being in the markets and being involved. And then obviously once I turned 18, you can get your own brokerage accounts and stuff. And 21. And and then we just ran with it, and now here we are. And so it really started with options, and then transitioned to now trading futures with Apex.
Well, that's cool. And I hear this a lot. A lot of traders start off with options. And I think one of the big appeals to options is the leverage. With stocks, you got to put up a lot of capital. Your percentage return on risk is not necessarily going to be as high. So a lot of people move into the world of options with this idea that leverage is going to create a bigger opportunity. Now, what was your experience moving from options into futures? Was there a specific reason? Did you have an experience, or was it just kind of your natural evolution?
Yeah, so the move definitely was one from, being very comfortable with options and trading those almost exclusively and really working towards that and trying to build that up. And then over time, just seeing that there were days when, you could have some pretty big unplanned drawdowns with how some of the trades would go. And
Sure.
so the thing about that is it's like very much like it's very emotional. It's a huge journey.
Mhm.
And especially when when you're trading options that have quicker, earlier expirations, it's like you barely have really any time to work with.
Mhm.
And as you get closer to that expiration date, if you even have one market move in the wrong direction, you can have a heavy drawdown and really be under the gun and be stressing about your position. And
Sure.
also, of course, that's all with your own capital, like we talk about, right? Like the importance of one of the coolest parts about the prop firm model and about being able to trade futures with y'all is, at least your capital is protected, right? And you're learning your risk management without risking that capital, which is amazing. I mean, when else would you have ever had the opportunity to do that? Like it's amazing the opportunity we have here. And it's something that's why I don't try to take for granted. And so yeah, options honestly, like, yeah, there were times when I was just having some larger than I wanted drawdowns, and I was just thinking about it. I'm like, I need to switch to something safer, something that feels more like I'm protecting my capital
Mhm.
while also still being exposed to an instrument or a derivative instrument that felt like it had enough price movement. I mean, I guess once you trade options, it's really hard to go back to trading shares of stock. I still
I
do it
would
every
imagine.
so often, but with the leverage and everything. And so knowing that when I found futures, which is all thanks to one of my friends, it's funny actually because there was a point with options trading where I was like, I need to size down my risk. I cannot be looking at this as a day-to-day job
Mhm.
because like I was having a rough month, right? And you know how that could kind of snowball. And so I was like, I need to take time away. I actually went back to doing another job that I do for a company on a contract as a creative director.
Mhm.
And there I met my friend who was in on this futures trading model. And
Mhm.
Joey, you're a legend. I mentioned you in my first interview with Gates. I'm mentioning you again because thanks to him, seriously, I'm here today. And this has has been huge. Has really changed the trajectory of my life with trading in a way I don't want to look back now.
That's awesome. Now,
Yeah.
I know a lot of people struggle with the idea of transitioning from one instrument to another, right? Because you take so much time, you learn how to trade options, you learn all the Greeks, you learn all the dynamics, you learn all of this stuff, right? And then all of a sudden, you're like, okay, well, I don't want to be a newbie again. I don't want to. I don't want to start all over. For you, what you learned in trading options, how much of that was able to translate into trading futures?
Honestly, the number one thing that it taught me that was like, I want to make sure that I apply this to trading futures as well. Seeing that futures move so heavily and so fast,
Right.
the number one thing I thought was, hey, I'm going to remember that just like when you're trading zero DTE options,
Mhm.
like which are, they're expiring that afternoon, you have to recognize that a move in your direction that you were hoping for isn't something that you try to turn in a 2x move, a 3x move, because you got to take what you get when it's available. And the thing that's
Right.
interesting where I learned that is because in zero DTE options, when you approach the end of the day, let's say you're trading the QQQs because they expire daily or the SPY contracts because they expire daily. Once you get to about 2 p.m. Central with 1 hour left in the market open, even
Mhm.
if you have a significant move in the underlying asset QQQ, the triple Qs in your direction, if you're with your expiration coming up, and if your strike price is really close to the current price, if you have even one candle going the wrong way, it can wipe out like the last 30 minutes of the move in your direction
Mhm.
because those contracts are auto adjusting because if they go below your strike price, they're going to be zero. Even if they're 1 cent below, they're going to be zero.
Exactly.
And so they're auto adjusting for that possibility. And you can have one candle that loses you 50, 60% of your position like that
Right.
at the end of the day. That experience was what taught me futures can move the same way.
Mhm.
But I still don't learn my lesson, right? You get in and doing your evaluations and your funded accounts, and you have the day where you're like, oh, it looks like it's moving nice and steady in one direction. Let me throw on like 2, 3 minis and I feel good. I like have a stop order here. We'll be all right. And then you have a candle that's like 45 points on the NQ going down and it runs through your stop and your whole account's gone. It happens. And
It
so, but
happens.
that was like the experience where I was like, hey, I want to remember, take your profits when they're there. It honestly, my goal is always to be more conservative than I want to be. Whenever I feel
Mhm.
that itch where I'm like, hey, I want to stay on for a little longer. If I've hit my target, maybe take everything off except for one contract and move a trailing stop in place. But
Right.
more than that, I don't want to keep my risk of like, let me keep all these contracts on, or let me only take one off and leave the rest on.
Sure.
It's more like take 90% off, leave 10% on.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So now we're starting to get into a little bit of the strategy behind it. Want to take a look at some charts and let's kind of go
Yep.
through some of the stuff that you're looking for and seeing when you enter into an opportunity. So I don't
Yes.
know if I have these in the right order. I kind of just opened them up
This
for
is
you since
perfect.
we were
Yeah.
dealing with screen share. So let's just talk about them as kind of as we go through here, if that works.
Perfect.
What are
Yeah.
we looking at here?
Any order is fine on these. These are going to be 4 different accounts from this morning, actually, from trading this session.
Okay.
So this kind of shows you like we are just waiting on
Mhm.
something that sets up for us. And
Mhm.
actually, this chart's a bit more zoomed in, so you can't see VWAP on here.
Mhm.
But I think it was right above 17,552, which is at the top of that chart.
Okay.
So what
So
happened is on this one, you can see that from like 17,518 on the NQ, um, you were just moving steadily upwards. And this was because we had a heavy pull and then we saw price support come in.
right.
And we saw buyers step in. There was a couple candles before this as well, in which they were trying to establish a level, and then the buyers went out, and you can see that big green candle on the left side, on the far left side, and that
Right.
started a little uptrend up. You can see there was a couple candles trying to pull back, but it continued to keep that uptrend. So
Okay.
as we went from that bottom on the far left of the screen to that 17,552, which is that top number
Mhm.
that you can see, that was right. The VWAP was right above, right? So we knew that even if it's strong momentum wise, once that VWAP comes in, you're probably going to see some selling. And that
Mhm.
big red candle right there in the box, yeah, that one was like it literally went up the VWAP and dropped, right?
Right.
And so seeing that happen, I'm like, I want to make sure that buyers are still prevalent. In fact, I think on one of the other screenshots, on another account, I even bought in at the bottom of that red candle because
Okay.
even as it was falling, it initially pulled low and then started recovering and then dropped a little bit. But I was seeing buyers continue to step in once
Right.
it hit that like extreme low. And you can see it didn't also close at its low, it closed about 2 points higher. And
Sure.
then as it reversed, once it put on that next candle and created that hammer right there, once I saw that hammer, I was like, all right, I'm getting in long. I got in long on the next candle at its base. And then
Right
I
here.
sold that one quick for a quick scalp and then
Okay.
saw it really push right back up on that next candle. It pushed right back up into 17,552 and again dropped. When I saw that drop, I waited to see how far that drop went. It went exactly down to that same consolidation area as the previous red and those two green candles where they were bouncing off of. And so I bought back in as it started bouncing back up and sold it the next candle on that green. So um, that's what I'm saying. Like I'm really just looking to scalp some of these moves when I have high
Sure.
conviction on these, and I will keep my stops relatively tight. So for example, on that you can see I bought like four-ish contracts. I sold a couple on the move back up as well.
Right.
You can see the orange triangles, but
Mhm.
I was just scalping these out as because they move pretty quickly in my direction. I mean, you can see from the bottom of that candle at 17,532 to the top of that red candle is 17,552. Like as it was moving like that, you're having like a 20-point move almost, right? So you can just
Right.
scalp them back and forth. And yeah, and so that move, if it had gone below 17,532, I would have cut it immediately with 4 contracts. That's because I
Gotcha.
got to preserve that capital and there will be another opportunity. And so that's what that was one of the trades.
Perfect. What size bars are we looking at? What time frame are we looking at?
These are 1 minute. Yeah, I trade on 1 minute. My average trade times tend to be between 50 seconds to a minute and a half now. Yeah.
Got it. Got it.
Cool.
Let's take a look
So
at this one. So this is a little more zoomed out, obviously.
Mhm. Yep, this is more zoomed out. And this was off one of the 3-minute, 4-minute pulls in the morning as the market was trying to establish if
Okay.
it's going to have any kind of bounce off that initial bottom.
Mhm.
And so you can see the candle that wicks down to 17,495, the green candle. It's a hammer candle right there. Yep, Gates, you're right there. Perfect. Right there, you can see that candle. It was a really nice recovery off the bottom there. And once we had that established, we really saw through that candle that buyers came back in. Because when it was at its bottom, it bounced right off of it. And what you saw was that the top part of that candle, it continued rising throughout the 1 minute. It continued rising. It wasn't like it went up, came back down, went up. You had pretty much established buying stepping in there to support the move. But I don't want to trust these kind of moves right away because coming off a bottom, you just don't know how strong the strength is going to be. So I waited 2 minutes. I saw that we had a little pullback after the second minute. But once again, I saw that perked up to those highs of the previous candle. When I saw that, I was like, I'm going to buy this move on the bottoms just slowly. So I bought 2 contracts total. You can see one in that first red candle and then one at the bottom of the next green candle, and then sold them almost immediately in that green candle for I think about I think it was like a $60-$70 profit. But I was just looking for, sometimes I like in my feet into the market really quick and get loose a little bit. And so I just wanted one green trade to start. And then I wanted to see how strong that green trend continues. And that's where we can see, now you have VWAP on this chart. You can see where it's at for later in the day. And so once again, we push up into VWAP and we see that heavy pull off of VWAP in that 1 minute candle. But another thing that we see there is, again, it didn't close at the bottom of that candle. And I know that the next candle goes down again, but what you were seeing was a lot of buyers stepping in. It wasn't like it could have been a lot heavier off that VWAP. In fact, that could have pulled all the way back down to the lows because we've seen that before where it's kind of a false recovery off a bottom and then you hit VWAP and you pull immediately back down to the lows. I saw a lot of buyers on those levels. So I got in a couple contracts, one kind of midway through that candle and one near closer to the bottom. And then I waited. The next candle dropped down. And again, my stop was right at the bottom of that previous, that little green candle level right there that you can see where I had my previous buys. Now, what I try to do is keep my stop a little below those levels because I don't want it to hit like right at those levels. A lot of times I'll pull that price action right back down to the previous level and then it bounces right off of. And luckily that worked out because it bounced right before hitting that previous level. And then you can see I got up in the next minute and that added up to our $286 gain on the day.
Nice.
This one is just a quick. Yeah, this one's more zoomed in so that you can see the numbers over here because you can see like the price. Look, I mean, the market was moving. You could see from these 4 candles that it's literally from 17,492 all the way up to 17,536, right? In 4 candles. Like it's a 40-point move. And this was coming off a market bottom. And these ones are the ones where I was saying I want it to show me a little bit of evidence, right, that it's going to continue in the direction it's bouncing into. And so again, like I said before, this is literally huge, right? This hammer right here, like when you have the market pull down like this and eventually recover like that, you know that there's some significant buying coming in. But when it closes at the very high on that recovery candle, it means buyers, to me, from what I've seen, from what I've learned, it normally 90% of the time means buyers are going to continue through.
Right.
Now, that being said, the thing that's interesting about this chart is you can see my first blue triangle on the first candle. That was my first buy. And like I said, I want to be very careful on these. So I actually cut that. I stopped out. Right here. Yeah, I stopped out. I actually came in kind of heavy because I was seeing this price action. I didn't want to miss it. So that first blue triangle is actually 3 contracts.
Okay.
And so I cut 1 contract down there on that orange triangle at the bottom. And I was like, that's okay. Like it was 4 points, like about an $80 loss. I was like, that's okay. Let me just manage my size a little better. Maybe I was a little too quick to jump the gun.
Right.
Um, and I really didn't like it, and I was a little bit concerned. But what happened was this still was looking weak to me. So when I cut that, you could see I cut that for a loss.
Right.
And then I actually, okay, so wow, sorry, I switched short on this trade. You can see that
Right
from where
here.
these are pulling. So I
Right.
switched short on that trade. Okay, so this is actually a good example of cutting a loser.
Just
I was
minute.
actually wrong. This is me cutting a loser earlier in the day. Yes, that's what I
Right.
want to talk about. Sorry, I had the charts in different order, and then I forgot about that. So I went long and I cut the loser in that first candle and
Mhm.
took the loss. And then I was like seeing if the move would continue. And this is where I actually did the opposite of what I should have done. Because like I'm describing, this shows that
Mhm.
buyers are stepping in. But I,
Right.
against better judgment, went in short. I tried to
Mhm.
I tried to hit the top of the candles and went in short. But once you see two moves like this and you're seeing that it's continuing upwards, there comes a time you have to cut that. And that's
Right.
why this was a bad trade, but I'm really happy I cut it because you can see what happens in that fourth candle.
Sure. Now, um, I love doing this, but I really want to just as we're kind of getting to the top of the show here, I really
Yeah.
want to take a minute and talk a little bit about what this trading has done for you. I mean, I talked a little bit about it in the
Sure.
introduction, and when it comes to look, there's a million different ways to trade. There's a million different ways to skin a cat. I know not everybody loves that expression. I'm still a fan, but here's the thing: what this has done is you've learned the discipline, you've learned the strategies, you've learned how to get to a point where you have a consistency in your results as a trader. So now, as a guy who's been trading for 10 to 11 years without necessarily having legally been able to during that time, obviously in the traditional format, you're a younger guy. So talk a little bit about what this has done for you and the ability that it's given you in a way that you live your life because you're able to be a trader.
Yeah, it's been amazing. Like the reality is like if you can have your internet connection and are able to do trading and also with like Apex, being able to trade, get your payouts, and be able to pay your bills and stuff off of that. It provides amazing flexibility. I love being home, but I also like there's just beautiful places out there, and we actually don't have the beach back home, so I'm always thinking, how can I get to a beach because I miss the ocean. I love the ocean, and so yeah, like we were talking about this earlier, Gates. But like right now, I'm spend some time in Mexico, and I'm able to trade from here without any issues. You just connect, hop in your Tradeovate, your Rhythmic, and your Ninja Trader, and you're good to go. And it's amazing because then like you can make the beach a reality, right? Even if it's going down to Florida, you can make that a reality, or wherever you are in the world, because Apex has traders from all over.
Right.
Even if it means that like you want to go somewhere 3 hours away, sometimes I would just drive across state and go 3 hours away, and I can sit down at a coffee shop or somewhere with good Wi-Fi, and I can get my trading done and have a change of scenery. I think that just does so much for our mental good too, because trading is stressful. Trading is
Sure.
heavy and stressful. And yeah, it's awesome that this opportunity affords that capability to be able to do that kind of thing.
And there's some obvious exceptions. If you've got young kids, if you've got
Yeah.
a deeply rooted lifestyle, well, then it's not necessarily going to be as easy. But I see people who have this ability that don't have this rooted lifestyle, but they just don't take that leap. And so, real quick before we wrap everything up here, what is it about you and your experience and what you've done that has basically said, you know what? Forget it. I'm taking the leap. I'm going to go. I'm going to go for an extended period of time. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here. I'm just going to experience life.
Um, I think I think it comes down to what you were saying. You gotta grab life by the horns, right? Take that opportunity when you get it, because you don't really know when it's gonna come again, or if it is gonna come again. I think that was something that options trading honestly taught me. Sometimes you're having an amazing 3 months and then 1 month and you're like, whoa, like I need to
Right.
reset my expectations for the whole year. And so when the
Mhm.
opportunity is there, you just gotta take it. And I think that that's also, it's, thanks to blessings from God of good health and the ability and being in a time of my life right now to be able to do that. So I hope that for everyone, and everyone who has a chance, even when you have family obligations and stuff, hopefully maybe you can take your family on a vacation and you can trade from out there and experience that. Like I can be somewhere else and I can trade and I can get that done and maybe finish in 1 hour and then have the whole vacation with your family hopefully paid for with what you earn from that, right? Like I think there's different ways that we can hopefully all experience that no matter what stage of life we're in. And I hope that we do, because this beautiful world that God created, it's amazing to see, and I hope that we all get to.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. I love it. Man, what an exciting look. I like, there's a reason I wanted to have you on the show, and I think you guys can tell. Jim, of course, is like worried about your golf game and making sure that you get time for everything. Obviously, we've all got our priorities, right? Man, I love it, because I think hearing stories like this really give people that permission to tell themselves, I can do this. I don't have to live in a confined box that I see as normal. There's no such thing as normal. Normal is what you make it. And for you, normal means that you get to be in a different location anytime you want. And it's a wonderful opportunity. Life may not always paint that picture for you, but for right now, while it does, enjoy it, have fun with it, go out and get it. So thank you for sharing your story with us. I love it. We are going to be back next week. So come back and join us again. I have another fantastic guest. In fact, I know a lot of you guys like to hear about those 7-figure payees. We do actually have one of those on the show next week, so I'm excited to bring that information back to you as well. Sahil, what a wonderful wonderful morning. I appreciate you hanging out with me. Love getting the opportunity to do this. Thanks so much. And for all the rest of you, I'll see you guys next week at 11 o'clock Eastern.